Hey guys, it's Mr. Boyd. In this video we're going to take a look at graphing equations using slope-intercept form. So if you remember from our previous lesson, we want to identify the slope in the y-intercept, plot the y-intercept, plot the slope, and then draw the line. The first thing we're going to do is identify the slope in y-intercept. Notice here that m is 2, b is 5, m is the slope. It must be written as a fraction, which represents rise over run. B is the y-intercept, which is 5. Next, we'll plot the y-intercept on the y-axis. Then we'll rise 2 and run 1 and draw our line. Okay, our next example, we have y equals 1/3 x minus 4. So the first thing we want to do is identify the slope in the y-intercept. Again, I'm going to write the y equals mx plus b above the equation I have and identify the m and b. So here m is 1/3, which is up 1 and over 3. b is -4. So I'll start out by plotting a point at -4 on the y-axis. I'll rise 1, run 3, and then draw a line. Okay, now we're going to graph y equals -2/3 x plus 2. When you have a negative slope, it's always best to put the negative on the numerator. And we'll plot the y-intercept at +2 on the y-axis. I'll go down 2 and right 3 and draw the line. Okay guys, I'd like to do one more example on the graph that I have here. And let's do y equals -3 over 4 x. Now notice here, if I write my y equals mx plus b below the equation, my slope is -3/4. And it appears that I don't have a y-intercept. Well, that's because the y-intercept is actually at 0. So I'll start off by plotting the y-intercept at 0. And then I'll go down 3 spaces because this is a negative slope. I'll go down 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3. And I always go to the right. So I'll go 4 spaces to the right. And then I can draw that line. This is going to be a little tricky here without a line tool. So should look something like that. And it would continue out this way. And make sure you're using a ruler when you draw the lines. Okay, so now I want to take a look at an example of graphing standard form equations. And a standard form equation is written where the x and y are on the same side of the equal sign and there's a constant on the opposite side. Now, the first thing we want to do is find the x and y intercepts. And to do that, I'm going to let x equal 0 on the first to find the y-intercept. Then I'm going to let y equal 0 to find the x-intercept. So when I plug in 0 for x and solve it, find out that y equals 6. So my y-intercept is at 0, 6. For the x-intercept, I'll let y equal 0 and solve it. So 3 times 8 is 24. So my x-intercept is 8. Next, I'll plot the 2 points. So 0, 6 is up here on the y-axis. That's why it's called the y-intercept. And 8, 0 is over here on the x-axis, and that's why it's called the x-intercept. And of course, the last step is to draw a line through the 2 points. So let's take a look at that again with the equation 3x plus 4y equals 8. So step 1, we'll find our x and y intercepts by substituting 0 for x and solving this, and we find that 4 times 2 is 8. So our y-intercept is at 0, 2. When we plug in 0 for y and solve it, we find out that x is actually 8/3. And when we plot those points, 8/3 is 2 2/3. So I plot the x-intercept on the x-axis, the y-intercept on the y-axis. Notice I went 2 and about 2/3 of the way to number 3. And then I draw my line. Next, I'd like to take a look at what happens if you have an equation that's either missing the x or the y. So like this one right here says x equals 2. What does the graph of an equation for x equals 2 look like? Well, notice there's no y in the equation, which would tell me that it will never cross this y-axis. So that would mean you'd come over here to 2 and draw a vertical line so that it doesn't cross the y-axis. So for x equals -3, that would mean you'd come over here to -3 and draw a vertical line there as well. So if the equation is x equals, it produces a vertical line. If it's y equals, it would make sense then that it produces a horizontal line. So taking a look at y equals 4, we would go up to 4, where y is 4. And because there's no x in the equation, it will never cross the x-axis. There's no x-intercept. Therefore, it would just have a horizontal line right here where all of the y's are actually +4. Notice this is the point 0, 4. This is the point 1, 4, and 2, 4, and so on. Notice all of the y values are 4 there. So here's a kind of an interesting one. Y equals 0. Well, where does y equal 0? Well, right here, and it's going to be a horizontal line, but it's going to actually turn out to be right on the x-axis. And in fact, y equals 0 is the x-axis. So guys, that concludes this video. Be sure to subscribe and like this video, and you'll be able to see other videos of the same. And I hope this helps with you.